you need some help, man. Hey, call for help, call for help, call for help, call for help. Hey, call for help, call for help, call for help, call for help, call for help.
All is One Reflections. I am Priestess Omoshule. I am one of the goddaughters of the Reverend Priestess Oshun Funke Yanifa. I am an ancestral priestess. I am an Ori priestess. I am a spiritual warrior, a spiritual avenger. I am a staff member at the Risha Hoodoo Institute. I am all that in the bag of chips with the dip. Okay. And today, and I got a lot of dip on my chip. Okay. And so today we are talking about why the ancestors. Okay. So this is going to be a somewhat foundational, but we might go down the rabbit hole class. I think this is some new information that for some people in the coven. And if Angel, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to put your question in the chat or raise your hand. Okay. Definitely put your question in the chat because I'm going to present and I may not see. So hold on. Let me share my screen. Okay. Y'all can see my screen? Y'all can see my screen? Okay. So why the ancestors? Okay. So this is going to be a brief class about the importance of ancestral veneration. And so many of us that are priestesses or priestesses in training, we see, especially in the Ifa setting, we see a lot of people that are like that are so quick to work with Orisha. They want to know where Orisha owns their head. They want to know who they are a child of. But that is important. But what is also important is your ancestral foundation, your spiritual foundation, the foundation that you have with your ancestors, the foundation that you have with your Ori. And your ancestors are your first line of defense. Okay. They are your first line of defense. They are here to help you and protect you and to give you your Iri, guide you to your Iri. Okay. And so sometimes we tend to skip over our ancestors and we go to Jesus Christ. Okay. We tend to skip over our ancestors and we go to Oshun. We skip over our ancestors and we try to go to Legba. Okay. And these are probably spirits that we shouldn't even be tapping into. Okay. Especially if you don't have a firm foundation with your ancestors. Okay. All right. So, brief for those who do not know. Okay. What are ancestors? So, ancestors are supernatural beings, okay, ghost spirits who play a significant role in the lives of their living descendants. Okay. And so, what is an ancestor to you? Oshun Tara.
All is one.
Oh,
So for me, an ancestor is someone who I consider to be my agungun, someone, not someone, spiritual energy of my lineage that protects me, that guides me, my spiritual DNA resides within my gungun. I'm adopted, so I don't rely on my ancestors in the dearly departed fashion as much, but the spiritual entities of my bloodline, um, blood of my blood, bone of my bone, and I connect with them. Yeah, they guide me, they keep me in alignment. They are always around me and making sure that I don't veer too far or left off the path. But yes, I would consider my ancestors or Gungun to be my spiritual court, specifically attached to my DNA and lineage.
I'll share priestess in training. I like that. because also too, we have that connection, that adoption connection. And so, we've talked about what does ancestral veneration look like to us. And when we had this conversation many moons ago at the house in Atlanta, and we were like, I think it was after like your ceremony, and we just had like that conversation. So much has changed, so much has changed, and how much the ancestors revealed themselves to me, and how I went from not knowing anything to like having all of this information download. And I'm like, hold on for a second. Okay. So I do like your definition, and I do appreciate that you're saying about the dearly departed, and we will talk about the dearly departed as we continue. Okay. All right. So look at this. Okay. So sometimes when we think of ancestors, we're like, oh, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, but look how expansive this is. This is a tree. This is basically the tree of life, okay, of your life. Okay, so you got 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 16 great-grandparents, 32 great-great-great-grandparents, okay, 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents, okay, and so look, y'all can read this, and I can already imagine. I looked at this and I was like, damn, I'm really going down a rabbit hole, okay? And so sometimes we tend to box our ancestors in, okay? And so our ancestors are so expansive. There is no way that I can name all of the, or I'm going to get all of the names of these ancestors, okay? But when the ancestors reveal themselves, that is such a beautiful thing, and you listen, and those that want to reveal themselves, they will, okay? So the vastness of the ancestral world far exceeds the world we are living, okay, of the living, okay? So depending on which there's the ancestors that's in the ocean, there's the ancestors that are in heaven, okay? And so it's so much that we can't even grasp or even begin to understand. And so something that has helped me on my ancestral journey is just, this is a lifelong journey. And so I don't need to know the information right now, okay? Because then I'll just be like, it'd be information overload, okay? And one of the things that I task the ancestors do is just continue to show, yourself to me. So the vastness of the ancestral world, it far exceeds the world of the living, okay? We are just on earth, okay? And we're in the 3D, okay? So the more you start to elevate, the more you start to discover that this ancestral world is like, it's you got to see it to believe it. You got to experience it to believe it. And I don't mean you got to be dead, okay? So not all ancestors are blood related. So despite what people think, when we think of ancestors, we're like, oh, my granny and, my peepop, Mima. But sometimes ancestors are not blood related, okay? Like Oshun Tara said, she's adopted. And so you can definitely venerate your ancestors through adoption or your foster family, okay? Especially if it is a family that is in alignment, okay? So everything happens for a reason. This is not a class about Ori and destiny and the destiny we choose that we chose on our way here. And why the fuck did we really choose this destiny? Because it don't make sense, okay? But things happen for a reason. And my interpretation is that maybe God will trust your parents to carry you, but they may not have the tools to raise you, okay? And so that's where adoption and foster care comes into. So you can venerate your ancestors that you have gained a relationship with through foster family or the family that you were adopted into, okay? Because a lot of us don't have that biological family connection, okay? And so just because you're adopted does not mean that you cannot venerate your ancestors. And then also too, just because you are adopted doesn't mean that you cannot venerate your ancestors of your bloodline, okay? So you can still venerate your ancestors from your bloodline that are of love and light, okay? All right. And so also too, there are community ancestors, okay? Community ancestors. So these are ancestors that made a difference in your community, in your world, okay? So I know I live in DC. Dick Gregory, God rest his soul. If anybody knows Dick Gregory, he was a comedian. He was a civil rights activist, okay, back when Martin Luther King. And I had the pleasure of meeting him a few times. The first time I met him was like child at a bar. At a bar, I wasn't even 21 yet. And my friend and I went, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Dick Gregory. And so we went, and this was like when Barack Obama was like running for president. So this just shows you how far this goes. And we talked, and he talked about his experience during the civil rights era and how he thought that he would never see a Black president. And he was hoping to be able to live to see a Black president. And he did. And I would see him through DC running around. He would run, avid run. He had his headphones on, but he was a pillar of not only the community in DC, but the Black community. So if you know Dick Gregory, then you know Dick Gregory. And he transitioned some time ago. I think it's probably like 2019 or something like that. But he was a very important figure in the DC community. So Chuck Brown, if you know anything about go-go, he is the father of go-go. So that's that music aspect. We're talking about, if you know anything about Dorothy Height, okay? She started National Council of Negro Women. So if you ever heard of NCNW, okay, just as well as Mary Church Terrell. There is and these are big community centers, there is a rec center named after Dorothy Height in DC. I promise you, I used to tutor at this school called Dorothy Height. It was like the most ghetto fucking school ever, okay? And I was like, you won't have me come up here with these little hood boogers. You know, all the hood school named after the Black community leaders and stuff, right? I ain't never been to a MLK or Martin or Malcolm X Boulevard that wasn't ghetto as fuck, okay? Every MLK Boulevard, Avenue, Malcolm X is ghetto, okay? But they are pillars of the community. And so that's how you venerate. You name streets after them, right? We see it all the time. You know, people call them forefathers, white people call them forefathers and things of that sort. But you see statues of, you know, fucking Robert E. Lee. There's streets named after him. There's schools named after him. So when you are naming these schools and streets after these prominent figures, you know, I beg to differ. That is how you keep their energy alive, is through veneration. You're talking their name, okay? So these are just some of the Black pillars of the community in DC and the Black community as well. And if you don't know them, please look up Dorothy Height. Please look up Mary Church Terrell. Please look up I didn't know who Chuck Brown was until I was in college. And I was like, who is this? Everybody was going crazy. All the DMV people was going crazy. I was like, who is this guy? I was like, oh, you don't know Chuck Brown? I was like, I don't listen to go-go because it sounds like pots and pans. Okay. So let's talk about ancestral veneration. Okay. So despite what people think, we do not worship our ancestors. We're not getting on our hands and knees and we love you. We're not doing that, okay? That's not what ancestral veneration is, okay? We don't worship our ancestors, okay? So we continue or build our relationship with them in the visible world, okay? Because there are some ancestors. When I started my ancestral journey, I didn't know not one ancestor at all. I didn't know a name. I didn't even know my grandmother's name. I knew that there was gifts coming, and I knew that the church just wasn't, you know, my speed anymore. But I didn't know what ancestral veneration was. I was like, oh, ancestors. Okay. Do y'all really fuck with me? Because I was in foster care and adopted, but that's a story for another time. Okay. And they fucks with me hard. Okay. And so through ancestral venerations, the ancestors allow us to understand who we are, where we come from, and where we are going. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go deeper. there's a saying, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And I believe that is so, 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 so true. So true. And now that I am elevating and things and tapping more into my Ori, things start to make sense. Okay. And also too, y'all, these are real pictures of my ancestors. Okay. Okay. So give it up to the ancestors. Okay. That's my grandma. Okay. My grandma, her people. So ancestral veneration is important because it can transform trauma. Okay. So we talk about that ancestral trauma. It can transform trauma. It can facilitate healing and empowerment for ourselves, our families, and our community. So if you ever see one of my bios, like family, friends, community, okay? And only through working through our ancestors are we able to heal our ancestral trauma, okay? Heal the things that are keeping us out of alignment, okay? And it's not a one and done, because a lot of these things are embedded in our DNA. You understand? Some of these things, these behaviors went from, we're talking about from one generation to another, okay? And so through ancestral veneration, we're able to transform the things that we need to transform for the healing, for empowerment, for elevation. So ancestral veneration does not mean you get down on your knees and you praise the ancestors. No, I talk to them how I would talk to Priestess Oleia, how I would talk to Priestess Oya Petu, how I would talk to Oshun Tara, and we be real up in here. We curse and we just real, okay? So, okay. And this is my great grandfather, y'all, okay? He's a hardworking Black man. This is my grandmother, who will be 97 this year in November. This is her father. Okay, so how can the ancestors influence you? Okay, so like I said, the ancestors have the ability to see what we cannot, okay? They give us advice from their lifetime experiences, okay? They can support with family issues and crisis. They can reverse negative trends and generational curses in the family, especially those who may have started with them, okay? They can bring new opportunities for good fortune, blessings. They can help you tap into family gifts and resources. They can provide, of course, protection. I say your ancestors is your first line of protection. They can clear negativity. You know how many times the ancestors are clear some negative shit out that I don't even know? How many times they clear negativity out from us that we don't even know, okay? And they can assist with the transition of loved ones leaving this world, okay? So those that know, my mother passed away in March of this year, and it has been a very weird experience, to say the least. That's the only way I could describe it. Very weird. And so once my mother transitioned, a lot of things started to come to life, okay? Because for those that don't know, I'm adopted, and so my parents just didn't get their shit together, and so that's that. But I counted that from the time I was 18 to in this moment, I only see my mother 6 times, okay? 6 times. So I really didn't know my mother. I just knew she was a piece of work. But once she transitioned, it was like people telling stories. It was like my father telling stories about my grandmother. And I realized we got some real generational trauma that we need to get over, okay? Generational curses. And when I say that, I mean anger. Anybody that know my mom, she gon' fight, okay? Hopefully she ain't in heaven fighting, because she probably got kicked out, okay? She a fighter, she feisty, she has a temper. And who else has that? Me, okay? I'm a product. I am my mother from my head to my toe, okay? But then also doing more of my ancestral research, I realized that my grandmother was the same way, okay? My grandmother was a piece of work, and she was very outspoken, okay? But then also too, my grandmother was clairvoyant, Okay, so these are the gifts. But my grandmother was also Christian. And so she was not able to tap into her gift. Well, she had my grandmother knew when someone's gonna knock on the door. She was like, such and such gonna knock on the door, and not a second later, like a person would not. And we're talking about in the 80s and stuff. Anybody had no cell phones to be like, hey girl, I'm coming. You understand? So these are spiritual gifts that my grandmother had, and she was so frightened of them that she shut them down. Okay. So now me, decades later, I'm trying to tap into my spiritual gifts, and she's helping me with that because she had gifts, but she just didn't know what to do with it. And it was very taboo for you to have these gifts, right? Especially like in the South. She's from North Carolina. You were going to be a Christian, and that's what it was going to be. Okay. And so, these were like generational traumas and things that were making sense. And it's like, okay, damn, I really, like, I can't be arguing and fighting, but it's just like, okay, it's so deep embedded into my DNA that there is real shadow work and real ancestral healing that I need. And that I, to the day that my mother passed, my mother she'll be ready to curse you out. She'll be ready to fight, but then she'll also give you a Bible scripture, okay? It doesn't make any sense, okay? And so also too, your ancestors can assist with the transition of loved ones leaving this world, okay? So when my mother was passing, I had the wonderful opportunity to, one, make amends with my mom just for being a bad daughter. It was the tools that I needed those are the tools that I had at that time. So I wasn't the best daughter because I was still hurting, but I was able to make amends with her and things of that sort. And another thing I was able to do was, as an Ori priestess, it was just like so beautiful that I was able to cleanse and feed my mother's Ori. I was able to give her a modified spiritual bath. So once a time when my mother did have custody of me, she bathed me. And now the roles are reversed. I'm bathing my mother, okay, because she wasn't able to do it. And then also too, when she did transition, I tapped into the ancestors to make sure that they met her ass when she transitioned, and they helped her cross over. Okay, so your ancestors can help you. Your ancestors and me being clairaudient, those that know, they know. My mother told me that she made it over to the other side. She said everybody was there. She even said the warriors was there, okay? And my mother don't use those terms like warriors and things. Like, she's very Christian. Like, she gonna quote you a Bible scripture. I don't think she really knew what I was doing, but she was very supportive of whatever it was because she knew I was tapping into family history, and my mother was very proud, okay? So as I am, tapping more into my ancestral spirit, right? My grandmother can help me with my anger because that's something that she struggled with, okay? She struggled, like, she called my dad a nigger the first time she met him, okay? And I would have too, because he had her feet on her coffee table. It's like, nigga, get your feet off my table. And I would have done the same thing, okay? So the ancestors can influence you. They can help heal you. They can get you to your blessings. They can help you shed the things the self-doubt, the things that are keeping you out of alignment, okay? So you can get to your blessings, okay? Because when you win, the ancestors win as well, if y'all didn't know, okay? So how does the ancestral world influence the world of the living, okay? So first thing, they have greater access in ways that we cannot with our human body, okay? You know how many times ancestors come in and out? Ancestors, for me, birds are a way that my ancestors speak to me. And if I see a crow, and if I hear a crow, and if I see a vulture and I hear a vulture, like, I know it's the ancestors that are speaking to me, okay? And I did have a goal of, like, befriending a crow, but that ain't never happened. That was one of my goals this year. I was like, I'm gonna befriend a crow, and I'm just gonna feed it, and all I was attracted was pigeons, so. But pigeons still have spiritual meaning as well, they're just probably the niggas of the birds, but, Also, your ancestors, they can see us, but of course we cannot see them, Okay, some people have their clairaudience, some people see, they have the gift of sight. Some people can see spirit. So spirit can see us, but we can't see them, especially in our mundane life. Okay. So this gives your ancestors insight into what others around us may be doing for us or against us. Okay. Have you ever just been like, somebody just around you and it's like, I don't know, like I can't really vibe with them, as I know I am. Sometimes I'll be doubting myself, like, damn, Priestess Omoshule, are you really that mean, or are you really that funny acting? And then Spirit will show me, oh, you were totally right. This bitch ain't shit. This girl is scamming. This man is scamming. This lady, she's not a good babysitter or whatever. They plotting against you. Okay. Or ancestors could be like, you know what, girl, it is you. This person loves you. This person is supposed to be in your aura, in your field. Get it together. What is the shadow work? Maybe you need to do some shadow work, okay? So your ancestors are able to have that insight and persuade us and lead us to either get the fuck away from people or embrace people that are going to help you get in alignment, those that are part of your soul tribe, as I call them, Egbe, okay? Because one thing I have learned is that if ancestors don't like them, I know my ancestors will get rid of them, okay? Will get rid of them faster than you say in Oriki and try to summon Ogun, okay? So that's why I say your ancestors are your first line of defense, okay? And like I said, they can see the bigger picture, okay? So even for me, an example, ancestors be like, Priestess Omoshule do. And I'm like, but it doesn't make any sense, ancestors, because I can only see A through B. I can't really see through Z. I can't see through Z, so it's not making sense. And ancestors, they be like, just do it, okay? Do I just do it sometimes? No, I procrastinate and I self-doubt or whatever, but I'm getting better, okay? And so that's another thing about the ancestors. Why the ancestors? Because they have a bird eye view, like this crow, okay? They see things that we cannot see. So where I can just see A through C, they're like, no, I see Z. And yeah, C through F is going to be hard, okay? And then maybe L through M, somebody's going to come along and help you, but you're going to get through Z and we see it, but you may not, you don't see it, okay? And then ancestors can warn us when something is amiss. How many times have y'all forgot something at home, had to go in the house, and then you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so behind, whatever the case may be. And you end up missing an accident, okay? Or you end up missing, there's been times like it's just in DC, I just missed some stuff and I was like, oh, thank you, ancestors, okay? So they can warn us when something is amiss. And then when you don't, they warn us and sometimes we don't listen. There's been times where, the ancestors told me not to take this train, but I'm like, this train is faster. And what I do, I take this train, end up getting in a fight and getting arrested, okay? And I'm like, damn, I should have just got on the orange line instead of the red line, okay? I hear you, ancestors. So once you start to tap into your ancestors, you will start to see the warnings, okay? You might just be like, oh my gosh, I ain't got enough gas to make it to my favorite gas station. I got to go to this gas station. And then you didn't go to your favorite gas station because this bitch out here smoking a cigarette at the gas station and blew the shit up, okay? So ancestors are here to warn you as well because they see things that we cannot see, okay? So let's get to this. Not all ancestors are equal, okay? So there are different types of ancestors. Hold on a second, let me make sure. Listen, my native ancestor picked up my dad. There was an entire hatchet on his face. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you, the spirits will start to reveal, okay? So as spirit reveals, not all ancestors are equal, okay? There are different types of ancestors. This man right here is an actual ancestor of mine, okay? So he if you ever want to Wikipedia him, he has a whole Wikipedia page. He has like so many things written about him. But his name is William Holland Thomas. He was the first white Cherokee chief, but he also owned slaves. Okay. So he was also a Confederate soldier, fought in the Civil War. He purchased my great-great-great-grandmother at the age of 8 when she came over from West Africa on a slave ship. He bought her from Richmond, Virginia, took her to North Carolina. I guess when she became ripe and fresh and had her flower, he laid with her. I don't know if it's mutual. I don't know. They haven't revealed that to me. He laid with her. And then my great-great-great-grandmother had my great-great-grandmother, okay? And so, but she's not in the Wikipedia, okay? But he is on her death certificate. Catch that T. Okay. So, not all ancestors are equal, okay? There are different types of ancestors, all right? So just because a family member is deceased doesn't automatically make them an ancestor, okay? So we have our dearly departed ancestor, okay? So that is a family member that has passed recently within the last, for me, I say 10 years. That's what I said. My mother passed this year, so she is a dearly departed, okay? And we getting her together, okay? Just as well as I am healing my generational trauma, I know that there's things that afflicted her as well. So as I heal, I'm healing her as well. So my mother is a dearly departed, okay? And so for me, dearly departed is someone within 10 years, depending on that individual. And so now we have Igungun, okay? This is a Yoruba term, Igun. So is the collective spirit of all the ancestors in a person lineage, okay? All right, so this is the Orisha representing the ancestors, okay? So Igungun is an Orisha, okay? So if you ever you wanna do some ancestral veneration, or I wanna start dipping and dabbing with the Orisha, the first Orisha is your Ori, and then your Igungun. That is the collective energy, the collective, okay, spirit of the ancestors in your lineage, okay? And these are elevated, okay? Elevated. So you see we have the dearly departed, the recently, we have our elevated ancestors, Igungun. I promise you, if I master the art of not arguing, not fighting, and I say this at my big age, like just to have somebody where I feel so violated and I just be like, you know what, God bless you. I ain't never get to, I don't want to give them no bless yous at all. I don't want to say God bless you anything, okay? But if I can master the art of turning the other cheek, if I could be more like Martin Luther King, less Malcolm X, more Jesus, less Simon Peter, because I'll be ready to chop ears off and shit, okay? I'm with the chop the ears off. I know when I transition, I'm going to be an Igungun. I know, okay? Because of all of this, we some aggressive people. We have anger issues, okay? We like to fight, okay? We'll curse you out. Okay. Not that I want to, but I also am very justice driven. So if you know, I'm very justice driven. I don't fuck with nobody. I'm on my business. But if you bring it to me, then I'm like, I'll finish it. I want to just be able to, someone bring it to me and I just be like, you know what? I just want to shrug my shoulders. I'm going to get there one day. And when that happens, I just know I'm going to be a gungun. And when it's time for me to get to heaven, I'm not going to wait in no line. They're going to be like, oh my God, that's priestess right here. Hey, yo, priestess. And they're going to let me in. Okay. And I'm just going to go through. And whoever at the gate, I don't even measure. Look, I'm mixing so many religions and stuff. Don't even weigh my heart. Okay. Don't weigh my heart because you already know it's lighter than the feather if I master that. Okay. So I know my goal is not to reincarnate. Okay. But I also don't want no descendant that is going to be hard-headed as shit. They be like, you see what we went through? Okay. VIP, okay? And then I probably just get kicked out because I be wanting to fight Eve and stuff too for all the years and periods. But that's another thing. Okay, let's talk about Ara or Rune. Okay, so that is the Yoruba word for a single ancestor, meaning a person in the realm of the ancestors. Okay, Ara or Rune. So that's just a single ancestor. We know how we say and the ancestors, but when you want to say single ancestor, it's Ara or Rune. Okay, Abiku. Okay, that is the spirits of young children who die before being reincarnated. You know what so that means abortion, um, full-term pregnancy that didn't go for full-term when the baby are like born outside the uterus and all the things that happen. Okay, so these are the spirits of young children who died before being reincarnated. Okay, so they didn't even go through the birth canal. They haven't even gone through the process. Okay, or if they did, because my sister had she gave birth and the baby passed or whatever. So some people do give birth and the baby don't make it. But Ibiku is the spirit of young children who died before being reincarnated. So as you see, they're different. Just how if you are a Christian, there are hierarchies to angelic. So you have the angels, you have the cherubims, you have the archangels, and things of that sort. So they're same here. There are like hierarchy. Okay. So also too. So I also want to say, just because you die, don't mean that you stop evolving. Because there's still shit that you got to do in the spiritual realm. I know they keeping my mom busy up there. Okay, my mom got to get her shit together. Okay, there is actual work that I know that my mother has to do in order for her to elevate. Okay, so like I tell my Christian friends, I don't know what y'all think the ancestors just died, like I did that long suffering. If I can do the long suffering, you can do the long suffering too. Okay, it's okay. I got it out the mud. I don't believe in long suffering, and I do believe that the ancestors are not just up there looking down and be like, I had to get it out the mud. You got to get it out the mud too. Okay. Now they might need a little bit of push because we have not done ancestral veneration, and I know they have not been venerating the ancestors since Martha brought herself over here, since they stole Martha. Okay, that's not even her real name. They gave her the most white name, Martha. Okay, so since Martha was taken from West Africa, I'm pretty sure that she didn't. My maternal line has not done any veneration. Okay, so this is new. All right. So we talked about Egungun. Not every ancestor is an Egungun, okay? So the Egungun are the ancestors referring back to the first ancestors of humanity. These are primordial energies, okay? Primordial energies. And the more that you tap into your Egungun, your elevated ancestors, the more that they will start to reveal themselves to you. I've had Egungun reveal some really magnificent stuff, and I would just be like, dang, I was just crying to you guys like a year ago about being a walking question mark, and now you just reveal all these beautiful things to me. Okay, so it takes time. And so when you do your ancestral veneration, you want to make sure that you are working with your ancestors of love and light. Okay, so this is another one of my ancestors, y'all. Okay, so he was a colonel. He fought in the Civil War. He owned slaves, okay? But he actually gave my great grandmother on my paternal side, paternal grandparents' side, gave her freedom. So he had a child with her, and when she had a child, my great grandfather was born a free man. He was mulatto. That's how he was named, listed in the census as a mulatto boy, a free man. And so he also got a Wikipedia page too. Okay. So let's talk about Egungun Okoti. Okay. So like I said, not all ancestors should be venerated. Okay. And some need to be need that ashe, need that power, need that help, so they can be venerable, if that makes any sense. Okay, so Egungun Okoti, those are ancestors that you do not venerate, non-venerable, okay? They may have been corrupted or live lives that were considered unproductive or harmful to the family or community. This nigga owns slaves, okay? He owns slaves, okay? That is not conducive to the community, to the white community, but to the Black, no, okay? And also too, this man his father started a town. Like these people got money. And so I probably need to do, this is information that are just being discovered. So as I'm discovering it, I'm filtering too. But I probably need to do a divination because you men are wealthy. These men are wealthy, okay? This man, and they fought together too. These people fought together, okay? They fought together. Fought for the Native Americans, but kept slaves. Ain't that ironic? But you already know how that go, okay? But these men were wealthy. This man, he died. He had mental health problems. And he died broke. So I wouldn't even want to work with him. But in order to get wealth, I would like to see maybe if I can work with these ancestors that had wealth. I would have to really do my divination because, yeah, you got wealth, but how did you get the wealth? From humans, human labor, okay? So Egungun Okoti, so they had many bad behaviors that were a result of trauma. Okay, could also be a victim of their circumstances. Okay. Ancestors who were not settled on the other side. So these can be ancestors who died tragically, or violently. That you've heard about people who have passed, and when they crossed over, they haven't crossed over, and because they still think that they're alive. I had a she ain't my friend no more, but my daughter's ex-godmother, because I do believe in firing godparents, okay? So my daughter had two godmothers, three godfather. I fired one godmother, I fired another godfather, okay? So we down to 1 and 3. You need a backup for the backup, okay? But this young lady, when her father passed, she was having these dreams that like he was stuck. And she was having the dream, and her sister had the dream, and her aunt, the father's sister, had this reoccurring dream that he was just not, he didn't cross over, like he was like stuck in limbo basically. And so she reached out to me and she was like, I don't know what you can do, whatever. And so I was able to help her father elevate and cross over. And it was some work that I was able to do to help. And then they said they had a dream and he seemed very much more at peace. And I was like, oh, Priestess Almost Shoelace got that shit. Okay, thank you, Egungun. Okay. So there are ancestors that just will not accept their death, okay, especially if you die tragically. God forbid, you know how many 9/11 just passed. You know how many New York is just like, first of all, New York was a slave port anyway, and they buried a lot of those slaves in New York City, okay? There was a whole fucking what do they call it? Like a potter's field, where they just throw dead bodies and stuff, unclaimed bodies, and they did that with the slaves. So New York City is just like it's ghost town. I think it probably has more hauntings and spirits than New Orleans, okay? Just because of the history of everything. And so I know there's a lot of unsettled spirits just with the whole 9/11, just with, you know, if you're a soldier and things like that, if you die tragically. Okay, so you want to be able to help them to elevate, help them to cross over. Okay, so you're not venerating them because they ain't got shit to give you, they in denial. Okay, and so you can assist them by helping ourselves, because as we heal and elevate, so do our ancestors. So you know how people always say, you know, I just want to do ancestor healing because I want to heal the ancestors. No, you heal the ancestors by healing yourself. I heal my mother and my grandmother by healing my anger, by working with my ancestors to cool my temper and tame my tongue, okay? To have self-control, okay? To not even let things really bother me, okay? That don't mean no be no fool unless somebody mop you upside your head. I always invite you to mop me upside my head, but I would never inflict pain on anyone else. And then there are times when you could just, it's not even worth it, walk away. I haven't got there yet, but one day. Okay. And so this is Igungun Hebo. Okay. This is a lovely picture of my paternal aunt. Her name was Aunt Lottie. She passed away, lupus. She passed away of lupus. And so this is my daddy's sister. Okay. She got some beautiful chocolate skin. Okay. Igungun Apebo. So those are the venerable ancestors. Okay. Ancestors who live extraordinary lives or lives of achievement and prestige. Okay. And they establish a legacy through their work. I would love to be a Igungun Pebo, like for real. I don't know about you, but all of the ancestral work that I am doing is to build an ancestral legacy for those that come behind me. You know, my daughter's already here, so she's, you know, we're fortifying her and things and teaching her the ways, but also too, when I do have children and she has children and things of that sort. So I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a legacy along with my grimoires and my books of shadows. So when shit pop off, they be like, all they gotta do is say the code name, and I'm there, okay? If I'm not in heaven fighting Eve. Thank you so much. I am just so happy to be able to have family photos because I had not one photo. I started out with not one photo, and I think you was there, Princess Olaia, when my dad gave me the photos of my grandma. Yeah, you were here. And so that was the first time that I had got the photo, and that was like 2 years ago. Yeah. It's very moving, y'all. And I think Priestess Oya Petu too, because you're venerating the European ancestors just really opened up the floodgates and stuff. As I was researching my European ancestors, and people like, you're not related to me. You're not, I'm pretty sure you're not related to me. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Nobody wants me. My real family don't want me. My foster family don't want me. What's going on? And I just went to the cry to the ancestors, and they were like, peace be still. This is what you want. I'm gonna give it to you. And then all of this stuff just started like coming. Okay. So thank you, Priestess. Okay. Igungun Baba, the Igungun of the father's line. So like I said, this is my dad's grandfather, okay? Harry Lovett. Okay, this is my grandmother's father. He was a hardworking Black man. And as you see on my father's side, they are very rich chocolate skinned people. Okay. They call my dad Hershey, okay, because he has smooth chocolate skin. Same with my grandma, my aunts. Okay. We got some good chocolate skin. But then on my mom's side, they are more of a light skin because I just showed y'all 2 white men from my maternal ancestral line. Okay. So that it runs deep. Okay. Igungun Iya, the mother's line. Okay. So this is the daughter of Martha, who came from Africa, and Colonel William Holland Thomas. So he laid with my great-great-great-grandmother, and boom, this is my great-great-grandmother, okay? And she lived until she was in her 90s, and she died of pneumonia. But she also had heart failure as well. And so also, as I start to do research, I realized that heart failure runs on my mother's side. My grandmother passed from it, okay? My great-great-grandmother passed from it. My mother passed from it, okay? So through ancestral veneration, they were like, all right, girl, you know heart disease, the #1 killer of Black women, okay? You know I passed from heart disease. Oh, you know your grandmother passed from heart disease, you know, so they start to reveal things so that I am not holding on to so much shit in my chest area. I'm not holding on to anger because guess what? the dis-ease turns into a disease, right? So all the dis-ease that I might have feel anger, depression, madness, rage, okay? Because I be having rage, okay? People like, girl, you can fight. I be like, no, it's not. That's motherfucking rage, okay? That be when you have rage, you can do everything, okay? You can probably pick up a car and throw it. Pick up an elephant and throw it, okay, if you have rage, okay? So as I started to learn more about my grandmother, Amanda, I realized, and I seen her death certificate and how she died and all these other things like that. And I'm like, oh, this is some generational shit, okay? So I should be doing some heart chakra work to be able to help with this heart disease that's running, and even like I had heart surgery as a kid. So the ancestors are revealing things to me like, okay, Igun Iya is like, okay, girl, keep fucking around if you want to. I don't. But I'm healthy. I ran track and did everything. Okay. Thank you, Igun Iya. Okay. So these are Igungun Ologun. And those are the warrior ancestors. Okay. They fought for the liberation of their people or defended their community or family while they were living. They are also healers. Okay. Some of us have ancestry from the Dahomey Kingdom. And y'all know Dahomey, like, they were also very much prominent in the slave trade. But if you know anything about the woman, the Amazonian, the women warriors, okay? So there are warrior ancestors that you can tap into to do your bidding for you, okay? You got somebody fucking with you at your job, you be like, you know what? Egungun Ologun, please protect me. Protect me so much that I don't even feel the rage from this person. I tell you a story. I am the only Black person at my job. And even though in my normal settings, I'm very aggressive. Okay, I'm very aggressive and I'm gonna talk shit. But at work, I have to, tone it down a lot because I'm a Black woman in a white space. And by the time I wake up, do my ibashe, say my prayers, have my cup of coffee, and by the time I walk in, I'm very like mellow. And people are like, oh, you're such a pushover. Nah, because I be pushing bitches in real life outside these four walls. Okay. So it was an incident. These people were really like going for me just because I put a boundary up. And these people, of course, white, said that I was a bully, I was aggressive to their staff. Like it was just like the craziest shit. And I was just like, these people are lying, okay? And one of the guys called himself, and these are like managers now, okay, just little old me on a plantation. Called himself trying to be confrontational and approaching me, trying to correct me in the presence of other people. And I remember I was so motherfucking mad because I wanted to curse that man the fuck. I professionally let him know. And they were like, oh, I didn't know you was like that. Yeah, there's a lot of things y'all know about me and this motherfucker. Anyway, so in order to protect me, I called on my warrior ancestors for protection. I don't want to be at work having to curse people out because guess what? I curse people out, I'm gonna lose my job. And I need my job so I can pay my bills and travel because I like to travel and do the rest stuff with my friends, okay? And so I was able to tap into the Igungun Ologun. And let me tell you, the one girl, they got her ass up out of there. She a Mormon, so she moved to Utah with the rest of them people from the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I didn't even have to like really get in on her. The other guy, Spirit's still working on the other guy. And so much so that I spearheaded a complaint basically where this guy is like, they got like 30-page paper complaint, okay, on this guy. Okay, so you have warrior ancestors that would do the bidding on your behalf, okay? You don't have to, it's Orisha is there because Orisha, you can work with Orisha, but instead of just skipping over your ancestors and like, I want to go with Shango because Shango don't play and Shango gonna light some shit on fire and Shango's a warrior. Eshu gonna make sure y'all pop a leg, but y'all don't play with him. But like, you have warrior ancestors that can do the bidding on your behalf, okay? You have ancestors that were priests and priestesses of Ifa, of Oshun, who can help you to get in alignment with your destiny, who can help you to get the prosperity, who can help you call into self-love. You can, and like I showed you in the beginning, that big expansive tree, there's no way that you're going to hit all of the ancestors. There's no way, but there are so many, it was like over 1 million that we can tap into, pockets of ancestral consciousness that we can tap into for healing, to fight our battles, to help us. There's a group of Iyas, mothers, Egungun Iyas, that I work with specifically for the better my relationship with now my mother's spirit, but also me as a mother. So I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a little short-tempered today. Help me. Okay, money looking funny today. I ain't got no money for my food in this house. And I'll say a prayer for them. And they be like, girl, we take care of babies and foods. We got you. Okay. And they come through. Okay. So there are pockets of ancestral DNA and consciousness that are designed to help you. Okay. So you just don't have to, that's why I said, don't box your ancestors in. They are not just one-dimensional. Okay. There are ancestors that, if we are going to honor and venerate all ancestors, let's honor and venerate all ancestors. Okay. Just be like, oh, well, I'm only going to do the ATR ones. I'm only going to do the one that practice Ifa. Forget about the Christians because they just get on my nerves and stuff like that. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I know for sure my mother didn't understand what the fuck I was doing, but she knew what I was doing. I did it well, and she knew that it was in alignment with me and what I was supposed to do. She's going to quote a Bible scripture, whatever. But if we're going to venerate, that's where that hoodoo come in. I venerate the ancestors that practice hoodoo. I venerate the ancestors that practice the Cherokee, the Native American spiritual practices, because as I told you, my great-great-great-great-grandfather was a chief. You understand? There are ancestors from West African Vodou. From West African that practice West African Vodou. So we honor all ancestors and we tap into that ancestral consciousness to change our lives so that we can heal our bloodline. Okay? Egungun Aye. Okay? So this is my mom in the 70s because she had a banging ass fro. Okay, so these are our living parents. Okay, so while they're still living, so I have a Egungun Aye, my dad. Okay, and so with the Egungun Aye, so they are living parents. They might need support. Okay, to take care of them, elderly, or they may not be able to take care of themselves, sickness, whatever the case may be. It is your responsibility as a child to take care of your parents. And let me tell you, it took a lot of moving and shaking of spirit for me to bring my Black ass down to Georgia and spend my money, okay, for my mother when we were not on good terms. And that's how I knew Egungun was really working me, because I was like, oh, I don't have the money. Egungun was like, oh, no worries. I'll give you the money. Okay. Oh, well, I don't know if it's, oh, don't worry. We'll find you a child care. Like, they made it because it was my responsibility as a child. Even though my mother didn't raise me and do the best with me, it was still my responsibility to take care of her. And I would have been remiss if I did not go down there and do what I had to do. Now, I didn't do everything my sister did. My sister was driving back and forth. I know she getting into heaven, okay? I know my mom gonna be right there at the gates, but like, let her in because she did right by my mom. I'm all right. I'm already in DC, so okay. So failure to do so can create problems when the parent transitions to the other side. Okay, so you don't take care of your parents. And as bad as it sounds, it usually go, you treat your parents how you treat you. How you treat your children is how your children are going to treat you when the roles are reversed, when you have to change. When you get older. Okay, but it's still our responsibility. We cannot say that we're ancestral priestess or we're practicing ancestral veneration and we are disrespectful to our parents. And I'm speaking to myself, okay? Or we have disdain or hate in our heart, because guess what? That dis-ease is going to turn to a disease, okay? Heart disease, specifically. So I learned through my ancestral veneration that one, I can't control my mother. I can only control my response. And the more I tap into my Ori to understand, to get an understanding about what is going on, it's really not about me. And I chose this life anyway, even as uncomfortable as it is. I chose this life. Okay. I had to get an understanding on it's really not about me. Spiritual warfare is very it's tough, okay, and it's real. And so sometimes spiritually and all these ancestral things, ancestral trauma, generational trauma has a chokehold on people, and they can't get it off until they're older or whatever the case may be. So I say all that to say it's still our duty to take care of our parents. But through prayer and meditation and work with your ancestors, your heart will begin to soften. You'll start to get a better understanding. You'll move when spirit tells you to move. You'll answer the phone when spirit tells you to answer the phone, and things of that sort. Spirit will start to speak through you so that you're not like, damn, what the fuck, mom? Here you go. You so that's why I'm fucked up today because of you. Where you're able to speak a more divine words, okay, because you're more in alignment. Okay. Egungun Orisha, and we talked about before, the ancestral priest of an Orisha, or the original ancestor that became the ancestor that became an Orisha. Okay, this is kind of occult knowledge. That would be Shango. For those that Shango was an actual living person, an actual living king. Okay. And if you are from West Africa, I'm pretty sure you are a descendant of Shango. We're talking about Shango, the king, okay? And it was through veneration after Shango passed that he became an Orisha, okay? So through the veneration of those that loved, and because Shango was real about that life in real life, okay? He was about that life in real life, and when he transitioned, people loved Shango, people venerated Shango, and that is how he became an Orisha. So there are some Orisha that actually walked this earth. That's just not like a primordial energy. That's just like, okay, I came with Olodumare to help. No, I was here. Shango was here fucking niggas up. Shango was here running his kingdom. Shango was here with the girls, okay? But Shango was also, if you are from, most of us are descendants of Shango, okay? So that don't mean you go be working with Shango and burn your house down and shit, but Shango would be an Ngungun Orisha. Okay. And this is my Aunt Rosemary, okay? So your ancestors are your first line of defense. Like I said, setting a firm foundation and establishing reciprocity with their relationship, okay? Your relationship with your ancestors is like any other relationship. And when I say ancestors, I'm talking about ancestors 11 life, okay? We ain't talking about the one that was up there pitting the uncle that had little girl sitting in his laps and fondling her in the front. We ain't talking about the Mima who had bitches and prostitutes and hoes and shit and slapping girls up and out here, doing mean stuff to girls as a woman, okay? We're not talking about the papa who took Mima money and gambled it all, and that's why Mima got to have these bitches out here hoeing and stuff so they can get, we're talking about the ancestors of love and light, okay? So setting a firm foundation with your ancestors is very important. Reciprocity, just as well as I'm petition my ancestors to do things, we have to make sure that our ancestors are fortified enough to do what the fuck we asking them to do, okay? Ancestors, I need motherfucking money, okay? But you ain't got no water on there to bring coolness to your situation. You ain't got no type of spirit, no type of gin, rum to call in that energy of wealth and joy. Did you give them cinnamon? Did you give them mint? Are they like Are there flies in the water? So you have to give it's reciprocity. So you have to give your ancestors shit to work with, okay? Because everything is energy, okay? So we like, oh, sometimes we're like, oh, the ancestors don't like us. No, because you working the fuck out of them. You working the fuck out of them and not replenishing them. Okay, you working the fuck out of them, doing the opposite of what they're telling you to do. Okay, because you hear them doing the opposite of what they're telling you to do. You're working the fuck out of them, and you doing whatever. And so they just like, you know what? I need more fortification. Okay, give me some water. I'm dry out here. Give me some gin. Give me some palm oil to activate some shit. Give me an egg for possibility. Boil me an egg, bitch. You can't even boil me an egg. Okay, so your relationship with your ancestral has to be genuine. You can't just be, I can't stand nobody with no one-sided relationship. And that's one thing as an ancestor. If I ever become one, if I feel like it's becoming one-sided, I'm gonna start knocking shit off the walls. Okay, I'm gonna make it known. Get your shit together. Because I don't even operate like that in real life. I don't do one-sided friendships, none of that. Okay. So I'm not gonna do it with my descendants. All this groundwork I laid, and you got me down up here looking at you like a fool. Feed me. And they are going to know exactly what you can do in your grimoire. You can tell them, you can tell your descendants what it is exactly that you like. Okay. My mom likes pineapple. I give my mom pineapple as an offering. I love pineapple as well. I tell you, my mom and I are just alike. I love pineapples as well. Okay. So, you know, my daughter knows she better have some weed. I ain't tell her the weed yet, but she better have a blunt. She better have some gin, some rum, some water, some pineapple, some fresh mint. Like, I got a whole list for her, okay? If you want me to make some shit shake for y'all, come on, okay? So let's talk about, we're almost done. Let's talk about how you can tap in better, okay? First of all, again, the ancestral life path reading. The ancestral life path reading was the tool that gave me the better understanding. And I got my ancestral life path reading in May 2020. Okay. And I got it with Ia. And it was life changing. She talked about my anger. She told me what the ancestors said about the anger. She told me how to set up my ancestral altar. Okay. And I know sometimes people may not have the funds. Okay. You can definitely just start by a white tablecloth, a small table, white tablecloth, water, gin. Or if you could rum. Okay. My ancestors take both. My mother's father is from Barbados. So he's Bayesian, so they like rum. I already know, you only getting gin if I ain't got no rum. So usually I give them rum. Okay. And so ancestral life path reading is a game changer, especially if you want to tap in with your ancestors. Okay. And let me tell you, it'll start out small. You'll start to see little things. And let me tell you, I know at least 15 ancestors that I can call out, at least 15 that I can call out, first name, last name. And I know if they call, if I call, they're gonna make some shit work. Okay. Because I feed them, they're nourished, they're fortified. Okay. Prayer. Don't underestimate the power of prayer. You ain't gotta always light up no damn candle and shit. Or prayer. There's been times where, like when I did Oya Petu class, and my cousin tried to tell me that I was part of that family and all this other fucking shit, and that class is actually very triggering or whatever. And I went to the ancestors and cried, and I just cried, and I prayed, and I cried, and it was like, okay, girl, I got you. Meditation. Meditation would help you to tap in better. When I first started, before I got my ancestral life path reading, we're talking about this 2018, I knew that gifts were starting to develop, and I didn't even know my grandmother's name. I didn't know she had she was clairvoyant, anything. And I remember, like, I just called them angels, and I was like, angels, what's your name? And I kept hearing Mary, and I was like, Mary, 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 and I just couldn't fit. I was like, Mary, and so it could have been Martha, my great grandmother, or it could be Marion, my grandmother. And so I knew that spirit was, and then I was able to put things, together, like, oh shit, so they really was talking to me. Okay. And so I meditated on, I was like, just give me your name. Like, and I just kept hearing Mary, and I guess it was really Marion or Martha, okay? But I guess it was Marion. And so task your ancestors, okay? Task the ancestors. That's what they're there. You know, they don't want to be up there twiddling their thumbs and stuff. I know the warrior ancestors, they stay ready, so they ain't got to get ready. And they be like, okay, we ready. Don't even argue with them. I got it. Okay. There are ancestors that are on the go, that are ready on the go, that because they want to do things for you to help you get in alignment, because you are a part of their DNA, because you are flesh of their flesh, blood of their blood, or because they're invested in you as a community ancestor, as someone that, you know, you may not be biologically involved with them, but there is still that level of love and investment. And so they want to do things for you. Okay. You have to task the ancestors. Okay. I got the ancestors. I be tasking them with some big stuff. They be like, girl, I be like, but you can do it. I know you can do it. That's why I asked you. That's what you do, all things. That's why I come to you. Okay. And so you task the ancestors and watch how things start to change. You know how to pray to bring measurable changes into your life, to see like, okay, I remember I prayed about this, and look, it might have taken 2 years for it to come into fruition, but guess what? Because things have to be aligned, because there's other players, you know, involved. And so you task the ancestors, and like I say, you operate with patience. Okay. Just because they didn't do it for you right when you told them to do it, they ain't no motherfucking they ain't no monkey, they ain't no pet. You don't tell them to do it and they do it right then and there, okay? Because there might be some other factors as well. So, you know, make sure that you get your ancestral life path reading, so you know what your ancestors want on their ancestral altar. So you know the times, the dedicated time, prayer time that you can pray with your ancestors. Don't negate the power of prayer. Let me tell you, the power of prayer could be more powerful than a damn mambo or Iyanifa trying to light a damn candle, because it's prayer, especially if you have the power of Afoshe. Okay, the power of manifestation with the tongue. Okay, meditation. Prayer is when you're speaking. Meditation is when you shut the fuck up and listen. Okay, and so with meditation, you'll get the answers. You can be washing the dishes, and the answer I can be this. I know ancestors turn my prayer. Usually, if I pray, and if I go outside and if I see a crow, I'll be like, oh, you heard me. Or if I see a feather, or if I see a vulture, I'm like, okay, y'all got me, okay? And then make sure you task them, okay? Because when you win, your ancestors win. And the more that they're achieving, the more elevation that they get as well, okay? So it's reciprocal. And then make sure that you have patience, okay? So that is a class. Does anyone have any questions? Let me go in the chat, because I'm dealing with that right now. Lung stuff is on my exactly, and that stuff is ancestral. Like that thing is and it goes so deep. If you guys have not, and I talk about this all the time, the Smithsonian Institute is doing this free genealogy tracing, you guys. And I did this February 2020. And let me tell you, February 2020, I was able to see census, I think it was the 1860 or it was a 1830. It was a census. It had to be like 1830 census, and I got to see slave records. Okay. I got to see all of my ancestors in one house and what age they were. I got to see death certificates. Okay, I see, and they're like, "Oh, you sure you want to see it?" I'm like, "Girl, let me see it." I seen my great grandmother's death certificate. I seen her child. He died from, was it scarlet fever? I feel like it was what's that lady that was giving out what do they call it? That damn lady, it was like she was passing around a disease. Is it tuberculosis? I think he died of TB. It was one of them. I gotta look, but I think he passed from TB. It was like one of those things that's just like people still. I can see people in the 1800s dying from that. Okay, now it's like something that they eradicated. Is it scarlet fever? I don't know. I gotta look. So I was able to see death certificates. I was able to see the names of my ancestors, okay, the born date according to them and the death date. Okay. And it was so great. And I felt so empowered to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not a walking question mark. Just from giving my grandmother's name. And my mother, she only knew her mother's name. She didn't even know her grandmother's full name. Like, back in the day, they called people by their nickname. And so my mom thought her grandmother's name was Della. Come to find out her name is Delaware. Okay, so I was able to just, so if you want this information, please hit me up. You can hit me up on YouTube. No, then you can't hit me up. Well, I guess you can hit me up on YouTube. Almost Shule, be like, hey girl, where's the Smithsonian information? Hit me up on Instagram, Ori_Dapo. Hit me up on Facebook, Almost Shule. Check us out at Orisha Hoodoo Witchcraft for Black Americans. If you're interested in mentorship, let me know. Okay, because this had like opened the door for so many wonderful things. And like I said, this has been a 4-year journey. Okay. And so it's not a one-stop shop. And like I said, we're talking about over 1 million ancestors. And your walk with your ancestors is a lifelong journey. Okay. And so the more, and this is a train right here. So Ogunye and the ancestors, that's also a sign of the ancestors. Okay. Yes, that Gungun Yay energy is really real. So, I believe that ancestral, especially for us, because as children of the diaspora, we have gone through so much. And I was able to pinpoint the trauma, the generational trauma that probably started from my great grandmother as an 8-year-old taken away from her home. Okay, from her home as an 8 years, and I've been through some shit at 8 years old. Okay, and my mother been through some shit at 8 years old, and my grandmother had been through some shit at 8 years old. But what I can honestly say is that my daughter has never been through no shit. Okay, my daughter ain't never been through a fight. Okay. 8 years old, priestess, I wasn't 8-year-old Melissa, I was fucking bitches up. Okay. That's what and my daughter has never been in a fight. And I know my mom was fighting and shit. My grandma definitely was fighting. So that generational trauma, that DNA that started from this young girl taken from her home, brought across the Atlantic Ocean. Y'all know how long that fucking shit takes, okay? Just her condition, I couldn't even imagine as an 8-year-old, right? And being able to survive that. Then relearn everything. They don't speak the language. They probably whooping the shit out of her. Ain't no telling how often Papa was raping her, okay? So all of that ancestral trauma and DNA, and that's the only way that you can, through working with your ancestors, is that's the way that you will heal. And so I'm just very thankful that the ancestors are like, okay, it stops with you, and I don't have to go to the schoolhouse. I still go to the schoolhouse, curse people out, but I don't have to worry about my daughter fighting. My daughter's like the sweetest person ever compared to what I was at 12. Man, this man was like, you're going to get suspended. It's going to go on your permanent record. I got a permanent record. Well, 7-year record. I think it comes off 7 years. But so please do not negate the power of your ancestors. Please don't skip over your ancestors and go to the Orisha or the Loa, okay? There are ancestors that will work with you once you establish your relationship with them, that will work with you to safely start working with these primordial energies. Because guess what? They work with them too. They're not saying you can't work with them, but also let's get this ancestral blessings together, and then let's start bleeding out into these other ATRs. So your ancestors are your first line of defense. Your foundation should always definitely be Olodumare, God. Your ancestors, your Ori. Your Ori. That is the first. And let me tell you, your Ori will start once you're tapped into your Ori. You will know, bitch, I ain't talking to no motherfucking ancestors. I'm not talking, this sounds like a rogue spirit because you're so tapped in and you realize the vernacular, not even the vernacular, but the behavior of your ancestors, that you can start to see like something not right. Nah, this ain't my ancestor. And you're gonna go cleanse the ancestors like, girl, bitch, I thought you forgot about me. Okay. So and same with me. I pray to God when I have children, they come out on a great healed note. I pray so too. One thing, my daughter, we grew up together. Okay. I have not been the best mother, okay, because I filtered through all my stuff. But once you know better, you do better. And then also too, I was the family I grew up in, like, they was fighting in front of kids. Okay. They made us go outside and fight. Okay. So that violence was so much embedded, even though this is not my biological family, but this is the family that I was adopted into. So then I start to get other behaviors, right? You start getting the behaviors of the people that you were adopted into and the people that raised you. So through ancestral veneration, you're able to undo, to be more in alignment, to help elevate, because that's the goal. Like my goal, I don't want to reincarnate anymore. I don't. I would just want to sit up there a good bit, have a good time, watch the fruits of my labor. Okay. That's the goal. I hope y'all hear me. But thank you so much for coming to this class. Angel, I hope you got some great stuff out of it. If you are interested, please just hit me up if you need clarification for anything. Oh yeah, and then my Cash App, thank you, Priestess, Divinely Clairaudient. Okay, Divinely Clairaudient, that is my Cash App. And so I am Priestess Omo Shule, and like I always say, pray with me, don't play with me. Ciao. Oh, did I stop recording? Probably not. Oh.